If you're parenting alongside another adult, whether that's a partner, an ex, a co-carer, or extended family, and you've ever found yourself thinking, well, nothing's really wrong, so why does co-parenting feel so tricky? This is for you. A lot of mums I work with will say some version of, but we're fine, or there's no big conflict, or we don't really fight. And yet they still feel tired or tense or even quietly resentful around parenting decisions. There's nothing dramatic or explosive, it's just wearing. And if that's you, you're likely not imagining it and you're not being oversensitive. Today, I want to name 5 very normal, very common reasons co-parenting can feel harder than it should, even when nothing is obviously wrong. One of the biggest hidden assumptions most of us carry is if nothing's wrong, nothing needs attention. But co-parenting doesn't only get tricky when there's big conflict. Very often it's undermined by the weight of all the small, repeated, invisible choices that come with raising children. And when those choices aren't clearly defined, they don't disappear. They just tend to settle onto one person, usually mum. So let's make that visible. Here are the 5 reasons co-parenting feels harder than it should. The first reason is you can end up making parenting decisions alone, even when more than one adult is involved. And it's usually not because the other adult doesn't care or because they're doing something wrong. Instead, it's often because the responsibility for mentally and emotionally tracking your children ends up falling to one person. And this can involve things like noticing patterns in behavior, sudden growth changes, or illness, or education, anticipating problems ahead of time, like getting out the house or dropping off at nursery or struggles at bedtime. It can look like adjusting plans when the kids are tired, unwell, or emotionally overloaded. Remembering what worked last time and hoping they haven't grown out of that particular solution, or just sensing when something is off. And even when decisions are technically shared, the responsibility can be felt more internally by one person, which creates a quiet pressure of, well, I'm the one holding all of this, even if we both talk about things. And that is mental and emotional load. The second reason co-parenting can often feel hard is the everyday co-parenting choices, even tiny ones, add up and cost more energy than the occasional disagreement. It's usually not the one big argument that exhausts you most. It's the 50 tiny decisions no one sees, the constant stream of small co-parenting decisions you have to make. Do I step in now or wait when I don't agree with how the other person is doing things? Do I adjust myself, my own expectations, or hold the line around what I think is appropriate for the children? Do I explain my reasoning or let it go and let them learn in their own way? Or do I just smooth this all over or choose a time to bring issues up? Tiny calls all day, every day. And they rarely get acknowledged. They rarely get counted, but they absolutely get felt. The big disagreements are visible, but the small decisions are cumulative. They add up. The third reason co-parenting can feel hard is that keeping the peace often looks quiet, but it takes real effort. Many mums are doing invisible emotional work on behalf of other adults in their children's lives, such as buffering tension, softening messages, translating tone, absorbing emotional charge, or adjusting themselves to keep things calm. And of course, it's not always mums doing this work. It can be the other way around too. But when one person is having a hard day and is coming across as moody or abrupt, the other might be intentionally cheerful or light with the children, reassuring them the mood is not their fault and explaining what might actually be a reasonable request underneath, such as, they're feeling tired right now, so shall we use soft voices or play in another room? And this is often done kindly and skillfully and usually automatically. But effort is still effort, even when it's loving. Peace that is maintained through constant self-adjustment still costs energy. And it's not because you're being too sensitive, but because regulation is work. Keeping the peace is not nothing. It's work, just invisible work. Reason 4 co-parenting can feel hard is that when a child is involved, most adults' protective instincts switch on. Sometimes clumsily, sometimes differently, but usually sincerely. Because when it comes to children, people don't tend to respond neutrally. They respond protectively. And it is personal and instinctive. And this can mean that reactions can be stronger, opinions can be firmer, and flexibility can shrink. Often it's not because people are trying to be difficult, but because their protective system is active. And knowing that doesn't automatically make things easier, but it can help you make more sense of the intensity of how others are involved. Of course, understanding that people can be activated is not the same as excusing harmful behaviour. Safeguarding always matters, boundaries always matter. But seeing that multiple nervous systems are activated when it comes to parenting can sometimes soften confusion into understanding and clarity. So remember, when kids are involved, adults aren't neutral, they're protective. And protective can sometimes look clumsy. And the fifth and final reason that it can be hard to co-parent is that kids react more to the emotional tone between adults than the words being said. You can be having a perfectly reasonable parenting discussion, but if there's tension underneath it, children often feel it because they respond to tone of voice, such as hostility or resignation. Pacing, if someone is speaking with urgency or being abrupt. Tightness, maybe a forced politeness. And inconsistency, when things just don't add up. And this can mean you're not just managing decisions, you're actually managing the whole emotional climate of the family. And that's another invisible layer of load. Now, none of these are massive problems on their own, but together they are quietly exhausting. The good news is that children don't need perfect agreement between adults, which is a good job, really. Your children will benefit most from at least one grounded adult at any one time. Emotional steadiness somewhere in the day. And decisions made with awareness rather than reactivity. And this is why simply naming the emotional load is already a meaningful step, because it allows you to tend to yourself rather than letting the pressure spill over into your parenting. So if you're listening and thinking, yes, this is what I've been feeling, you're not being dramatic, you're not failing, you're noticing mental and emotional load. For the rest of this month, I'm going to be gently unpacking this whole area of shared parenting, the invisible responsibility, the strain of making decisions, and how to hold yourself within all of that without blame and without needing to fix the relationship. It's just about understanding and getting clear on what's yours to manage and what you get to hand over to others. If this spoke to you, stay with me this month. Subscribe, follow, or share with another mum who might feel quietly relieved hearing it. You're not alone in this. even when it all looks fine from the outside.